Well, everyone, welcome. Good morning.
Good morning.
That was okay. That was all right. We're going to bring it back. Because we are here, we are in worship, and we are in community together. So, good morning.
Good morning.
Wow, and that feels like community. That's good. Thank you all. Good morning. Well, friends, we are in the middle, or actually, that's not true. I've just lied to you right now. We're at the very end of our Advent sermon series called What Can't Wait? And we've been doing this series because we're actually really good at waiting. We wait for a sunny day to go outside. We wait for another person to take the lead before we speak up. We wait for you to forget before we say sorry. But there are certain things that can't wait. And we're at the dawn of a new year. 2026 is right around the corner. A year full of things we anticipate, things we're waiting for, things we're hoping for. And let me tell you about something I'm hoping for in 2026. A shameless plug, if you will, something that I've actually already been working on. I've been working with area churches and area-wide leaders for a project that I'm calling Impact Week. And the idea is really simple. It's inspired by our greatest commands to love God and to love neighbor. And we're asking, what does my love for neighbor require of me? Where does my love for neighbor extend me? And so the plan is to go around in our geographic neighborhood, and we're going to ask our neighbors for free service. Lawn mowing, gutter cleaning, weeding, whatever they might need. Or we're going to offer free service, no strings attached. They don't need to come to church on Sunday, and they don't need to donate. We'll serve our neighbors out of the outpouring of our love for God. And I've done this about 6-ish times already. When I first did it, I was in Houston, Texas. And the church had been doing this for about 8 years consecutively. And so, we partnered with them, and I went out and we door knocked in the neighborhood, going door by door, asking for service. And the first house I knocked on the door. Woman came, very excited to see me. I, being new to this whole thing, got like a script. I was very robotic. I said, "Hello, my name is Alexander Sergio. I am from X and X church." I might as well have been ChatGPT in like a skin suit, all right? And I said, "We're here because of Impact Week," and she stopped me. And she said, her eyes lit up. She said, "You're from the church?" I said, "Yeah." She ran inside and grabbed what looked like a small list. But as it started to unfurl, it was kind of like Bugs Bunny when he sees Lola Bunny. Like his jaw hit the ground and the tongue kept rolling out. And she said, "This is so great. I've been waiting for you." Because this church didn't wait to act on the love they had, this woman expected her community church to show up. And this was so important back in 2014, but maybe even more so important now. In the United States, we're seeing a historic level of social isolation. So much so that the U.S. Surgeon General in 2023, Vivek Murthy, stated that the U.S. is having an epidemic of loneliness and isolation. And as the Surgeon General, he's not really tackling things like this normally. He's talking about obesity rates, addiction, tobacco use. But instead, he found himself shifting his focus. In 2023, Vivek wrote, "When I first took office as Surgeon General, I didn't view loneliness as a public health concern. But that was before I embarked on a cross-country listening tour where I heard stories from my fellow Americans that surprised me. People began to tell me they felt isolated, invisible, and insignificant, even when they couldn't put their finger on the word lonely. Time and time again, people of all ages and socioeconomic backgrounds from every corner of the country would tell me, I have to shoulder all of life's burdens by myself. Or if I disappear tomorrow, no one will even notice. The Pew Research Center found that in 2023 and 2024, about 34% of Americans would say that most people can be trusted. And in 2025, they found that 1 in 6 Americans said that they feel isolated or lonely around them most of the time, if not all of the time. There's an ingredient missing in American culture. And I believe that ingredient is a sense of belonging. But not just any type of belonging, because we find surface belonging all the time. This happens, right, like in sports. We wear paraphernalia of a sports team. And as we meet someone who also has that same hat or shirt, right, we feel that sense of belonging established. My dad in particular, he's a big Alabama football fan. All right? And it doesn't matter if we're in a quiet library. If he sees someone with an Alabama shirt, he goes, "Roll Tide!" And this isn't effective for everyone, because my wife also worked at the University of Michigan, and she would wear U of M gear. And even at the airport or wherever she'd go, someone would go, "Hey, go blue!" And she'd go, "Okay, cool." It's a kind of gateway to helping people belong, right? And I feel this surface level belonging when I play stuff like Dungeons and Dragons, which, listen, you don't need to tell me that's nerdy. My family has told me it's nerdy about 20 times this week. But the people I play with are all in the queer community. And so when they look for a sense of belonging, an easy way to do that is to state your pronouns. I'm Alex, he, him. And just like my dad yelling "Roll Tide," a sense of surface level belonging has been established. And these examples of belonging are great, but I think we're missing something a little bit deeper. I'm wondering if there's something deeper that needs to be established. So we learned from that church in Houston about Impact Week, and we took it to our church in Abilene. And we started Impact Week in Abilene for the first time. Not having done it 8 consecutive years, we imagined the response to be a little bit different, right? And the responses we got were surface level Texas kind, right? Texas has a general sense of hospitality, but they did reject us many times going over, door knocking. I went to this one person's door, knocked on it, stepped back. He peeked through the front of the door, screen between us, said, "What do you want?" A little bit different a response than I got from that lady in Houston. And I went on about my spiel, a little less robotic this time, about what we were doing and why we were doing it. And I could see his backyard. I could see massive overgrowth of plants, limbs, and grass that hadn't been given any attention, or someone who didn't have the time to do it. And so, he begrudgingly took our offer. And a group came out, did what they said they were going to do, and left. The next day after we served that guy, I went to breakfast to eat with everyone. And, to my surprise, I saw that man sitting down at the table, but also he brought someone with him. He brought his daughter. And when people asked him, they said, "What are you doing here?" He said, I wanted my daughter to know what good community is like. I wanted her to know what it feels like to belong. And just like that, but not waiting for our neighbor to ask for help, but going to them and offering help, we created a sphere of belonging deeper than what he had experienced before. Brene Brown writes, we are biologically, cognitively, physically, and spiritually wired to love, to be loved, and to belong. It's one of our most basic human desires, and in our passage today, God is going to remind us of how deep and far the borders of belonging should go. Because on the surface level of this scripture, of Simeon and Anna, this is a great story for a Jewish audience. Luke is convincing his Jewish audience that Jesus belongs in the Jewish community. Luke is going, see, Jesus was brought up Jewish. His parents followed the Mosaic law. They did the rite of purification. Jesus got, how should I say it? Downsized. He got the covenant cut. He got a little extra baggage removed. That's their Jewish roll tide. See, he fits. He belongs. He's a part of the covenant community. And then something is going to happen that I hope we don't miss in this verse. Because in the temple, going through, is Simeon. And Simeon has waited and waited and waited for this Messiah. A Messiah that's also rumored about, right? How is this Messiah going to fit the molds we make for him? How is the Messiah going to help only the Jewish people? How is he going to advance our dogmatic beliefs and help us create unnecessary borders around ourselves? Simeon sees Jesus and takes Jesus and sees what no one else can see. Because he's waited for so long, he doesn't wait for tradition to stop him. He springs into action. He says, Master, now you are dismissing your servant in peace according to your word. For my eyes have seen your salvation, which have you prepared in the presence of all peoples. A light for revelation to the Gentiles and for the glory of your people, Israel. This is a controversial statement because the Messiah isn't just for the Jewish people. The Messiah is for the Gentiles too, for all peoples. Because what we really want sometimes is for God to hate the people that we hate too. And the inclusion of the Gentiles is going to cause a lot of strife. If you read just the book of Acts, Paul gets assaulted in Acts 21 and 22 for bringing Gentiles into the temple. In Acts 10, Peter is going to extend belonging to the Gentiles. This is going to cause outrage. In Acts 15, we get insight into debates happening in their churches. Do Gentiles need to do the same right of Jewish people? This debate is threatening to divide the church. All because our belonging isn't as deep as Jesus' belonging. Our nets are not as wide as Jesus' nets. And our walls are high because we get fed fear about our neighbors in the news. And this belonging that includes even those who we feel shouldn't, I've seen it. I've seen this type of belonging, not only in Impact Week, but Covenant. Let me tell you, I've seen it here. Do you remember what happened a week ago? I'm not talking about Christmas Eve. That was cool, that was fun, that was awesome. But just a week ago, there's a really cool moment in our service. A 7-year-old girl got on stage and sang a solo of Away in the Manger. You only get that level of boldness and authenticity when your community invites you to belong. And do you remember the work we've done to do that? Because Covenant, we did a survey of our church, all right? And about 80% of the members are 60 and above, right? That's not really the environment a 7-year-old girl should thrive in. But the work we've done is we've included a kids' table in the back of worship. That kids, with all their noises, with all the people rustling, with all the things that they do, with all the sounds and noises, are welcome into our worship. We have a kids class where kids can go and be kids and play and learn, enjoy, have a time with themselves and other friends. We foster relationships through our prayer partner program, which connects kids outside of our kids ministry and connects them to you all. Linda invited our kids months after months after months to come and play songs in our praise song if they wanted to. Linda invited Fiona up during practices and rehearsals. And all of this culminated in a sense of belonging and vulnerability so deep that a kid in a community who really shouldn't be thriving thrived. And you know what's the cool thing? This is the fun thing that I think is really cool about this. Fiona feels such a deep sense of belonging that when her sister came to Covenant on a communion Sunday, she wanted her to feel that exact sense. And so she was like, listen, they're going to talk about this cup as blood and this bread as Jesus' body. Don't worry. It's just juice and bread. Covenant, a new year is dawning. 2026 is right around the corner. And I don't know if you do New Year's resolutions or not. But for 2026, I want you to set a goal. I want you to extend belonging deeper with those who you already love to reach into fullness and authenticity. Or I want you to extend the borders of your belonging beyond what you feel comfortable. Because there are many things that can wait, but belonging